Hi everyone, I'm Anton and welcome to my channel. And here I will be sharing postcard moments of my adventures and travels, big and small. Today I will be talking about my next adventure, the Long Walk, which is inspired by the Camino de Santiago, as it is known in Spanish, the St. Jacques de Compostelle, as it is known in French, and the Way of St. James, as it is known in English. Originally this route was a Roman trade route stretching along the north of Spain, ending at a point called Finisterre, which from Latin translates to end of the world. Literally the Romans didn't believe there was any world past this point, and they believed it was the most westerly point. In 44 AD, St. James the Great was killed and martyred. His remains were then shipped to the northwest of Spain, and thus began the history of Santiago de Compostela. Santiago, from Vulgar Latin, translates to St. James. Compostela derives from Campus Stella, into the field of the star. Now, this was linked to the Milky Way. They believed that the Milky Way was created from the dust kicked up from pilgrims as they travelled along the route to the northwest of Spain. Literally the sky would have been filled with stars from east to west, and without the light pollution that we have, that would have been as clear as anything. The earliest pilgrims recorded to have walked this route date back to 800 AD. The symbol of the Camino is a scallop shell, and is also the symbol of St. James. The shell and the origins of the shell being the symbol has many kind of stories linked to it. The one that I found that I believe would possibly be the most factual is that pilgrims would make the journey to Santiago and then collect the shell from the beach, returning with the shell as proof of their journey. The shell could also be used to scoop up water to drink from, could be used as a plate to eat from. So the practical side of the shell does please me somewhat. I am a practical guy and I like things to have a practical purpose. So that, I believe, would be more kind of the most realistic kind of reasoning behind the shell. There's also a story of one pilgrim who fell into the sea with his horse. I believe the horse drowned. He was rescued, and as he was brought onto the beach, he was literally covered from head to toe in these shells. If that does have a bit of a factual history to it, then so be it. But yeah, it's quite a nice story. I think that's all it is. Prisoners were also released, and as penance for their crime and punishment, they would be forced to walk to Santiago. Again, there's routes from all over Europe leading to Santiago de Compostela. Now, people would die along the way, so this was never an easy route for anyone, whether for religious reasons or whether it's penance for their and punishment for their crimes. I quite like the idea that prisoners would be released, accompanied by a guard, so they weren't just left to kind of go and roam Europe on their own. But I quite like the idea of being told to kind of go on a long walk, think about what you've done, and don't come back until you're sorry. It's yeah, I think it's quite a nice way of redeeming yourself. I mean, back in medieval times, people died along the route. There wasn't the infrastructure that we have today, and the population that we have today. The Catholic Church built hospitals along the way, purely in attempt to help people survive the journey. People would literally just try and reach hospital to hospital and survive whatever disease or illness or ailment they acquired along the way. So it's quite, historically, it's quite a horrific journey to make to this point. The most popular routes, and a bit of history on the Caminos. The most popular route is called the Camino de Francis, which runs from Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port on the French-Spanish border and climbs over the Pyrenees at the beginning and runs south of the Pyrenees to Santiago. Now, a lot of this route is flat apart from the start. Now, this is the most popular route. The second most popular is the Portuguese way, which runs from Lisbon up to Santiago. This route is 610k. The Camino de Francis route is 790 kilometers. Two other popular routes, or famous routes, are the Primitivo route and the Del Norte route, which run north of the Pyrenees along the coast of Spain. These routes are much more difficult, the Francis route being a lot flatter. The Francis route and the Del Norte route, there's a lot of elevation to climb and to descend, so these are less popular. Now, a few stats, a few numbers for you. Back in 1985, the number of pilgrims that completed their pilgrimage at Santiago was 690 people. Last year, the number of pilgrims to finish at Santiago was over 300,000 people, which is a massive, massive jump in just over 30 years. So the Camino has become quite popular. There are many, many books, many people have written about their journeys. There is a film called The Way with Martin Sheen. I'm sure there's other films as well, kind of dramatising and kind of drama documentaries on the journey. And all of which has helped promote and encourage people to undertake this journey. The Camino de Francis is very, very accessible. As I said, it's a lot flatter than a lot of the other routes. So people of all abilities, of different backgrounds, can quite easily make this route a lot easier than some of the other routes. There are also sections of the route that people undertake. There's a famous section in France between Le Puy-en-Velay and Conques, which takes around 2 weeks to take. Now, these numbers don't include the 300,000 that get to Santiago. So people can just walk sections of the route for whatever reason they want. So yeah, there's literally hundreds of thousands of people walking sections of the route as well as walking to Santiago. Some people walk from Scandinavia, from Turkey, from all over Europe, from Scotland in Britain, down through and then over the English Channel and then along to Santiago. Your starting point can be wherever it is, wherever you want it to be. You can, historically, people would leave their front door and start their pilgrimage to Santiago. With today's modern infrastructure, people can get trains to a starting point of their choice and start their journey there. Some people, because of work commitments, because of life commitments and family, may do 2 weeks 1 year, 1 week another year, and do this in sections until they've completed their Santiago Compostela journey. Why am I walking my long walk? I've thought about this a lot. I mean, I've wanted to do this walk for over 10 years now. And every year that I've almost undertaken the walk, I've either swapped it with something else, or I've got a new job and work commitments have prevented me, or swapped it for other journeys and other adventures. A few years ago, I travelled around Eastern Europe for a month and a half, just backpacking on my own, instead of doing the Camino. So I've swapped it for other things instead. This year will be the year that I undertake the Camino. I'll be leaving from Morzine in the French Alps, literally on the Swiss border, walking across the middle of France to the Bordeaux area, and then sticking along the coast across the north of Spain. So I'll be taking the Primitivo and Del Norte route over the Pyrenees at the end, which apparently is a tougher kind of route, but I do like a challenge. Over to Santiago, a few days walk extra to Finisterre, and then I will be heading south through Portugal, Porto, Lisbon, and then all the way down to Lagos. So over 2,000 kilometers, over 3 months, and with just myself, my backpack, and I'll be wild camping the majority of the way. I've chosen to use a hammock and a tarp as my main setup. I'll be taking a stove, carrying my own water, my own food, my own supplies, and being as self-sufficient as possible along the way. I'll be mixing up my journey with wild camping, but then also joining the Camino and sharing the route with other pilgrims. As humans are sociable creatures, I'm especially a sociable creature, and people fascinate me, people intrigue me. I would like to find out the reasons behind other people's journey and their kind of history and background, and share my journey with them as well if they're so interested, and also with yourselves. I plan to video log the journey and share the good, the bad and the ugly. I want to share the points I break. I want to test myself psychologically and physically, and also share the joyous moments, the ups as well as the downs. I don't want this to be a kind of just a positive story. I want it to be true and factual, and also for myself to look back on and see my kind of journey of, I don't want to use the word self-discovery, but I suppose it will be. It will be a kind of test. I've never undertaken something that will last so long. I mean, 3 months, over 3 months of being self-sufficient, of camping in the wild, of pushing myself will be a test. And I would like you to join me as well on this adventure. So yeah, the route I've chosen is a tougher route than normal. As I said, the number of people that walk the Camino Francis is hundreds of thousands of people. Last year, the number of people that completed a route to Santiago using the Del Norte and Primitiva route was only just over 2,000 people. Because it is harder terrain, it is up and down mountains. Now this is the route that I've chosen. Partly because it's a route less trodden. It's also supposed to be much more beautiful, a lot more kind of variation in landscape and terrain, and a lot more testing, which is also the reason why I want to wild camp a lot. I'll be out in the wild for 4, 5, 6 days at a time, not seeing anyone, and I want to see what happens. And hopefully, if you join me along the way, you get to see what happens as well. So thank you for watching. Don't forget, if you want to join the journey and receive regular updates of the good, the bad and the ugly of my journey, don't forget to hit the subscribe and the notification button and all that jazz. You know what to do, you know how YouTube works. And if you want to share this with your friends, your family, your nan, your dog, whoever, I would be humbled and would really, really appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and look forward to the journey. Love, light and peace.